Today's guest is a people champion through and through. Aubrey Scheppske is a seasoned HR leader who knows how to align business strategy with a culture of care. With more than 20 years of experience, she brings a passion for empowering others and creating inclusive, high-performing teams. From mental health advocacy to mentoring future leaders, Aubrey leads with empathy, strategy, and strength. Let's dive into this rich conversation on what it truly means to cultivate support in leadership. Welcome, relational leaders and listeners. This is Cultivate, your podcast destination where we celebrate thriving relational leaders and encourage each other along the influence journey. I am Wendy F. Adams, your host and strategic guide. I believe work shouldn't be a four-letter word, but should inspire, challenge, and fulfill. Through a high challenge and high support model, we will explore the recipe for relational leadership that drives meaningful change. After all, as leaders, we're either driving progress or we're driving the problem. So let's grow together. Welcome back to a fresh episode of Cultivate. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming a strategic leader whose heart is rooted in a culture of care. Aubrey Scheppske, Director of Human Resources at Gordon Feinblatt LLC. Aubrey, you know I am thrilled to have you join us for the Cultivate Experience today.
I am so excited. Thank you for even thinking of me. I cannot wait to have this conversation with you today.
We are going to have a blast. Audience, you hear me mention the green room time. Oh my goodness. If I could give you just a snapshot of what we've had, and you will, you're going to get to dive in. Aubrey, every leader we know has a why. You're a people champion. I've picked up on it. You've mentioned it. How did this mindset begin to shape the leadership journey that you're on?
So that's a great question. My why has always been people centered. It's been, I'd love to say that it's been related to me, but it's really never been related to me. It's really been related to the people that I support, just because I've always come at it from a servant leadership, whether I've had any sort of title with it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it started very, very early working for a national retailer. And I found the personnel, which is similar to the HR side of things. And that just threw me into something that I just loved. And I changed from going to be a doctor to HR, which is I'm not the only one. I've heard that recently. So there's a couple of us out there. Anything I can do, honestly, just to make their day better or get them through a challenge or help in any way, then I've done my part. And that's always been my why. And those I always call wins when they call with that made my day, or you helped me out so much. And that's just always been my why.
Well, I love that. I haven't heard that, like the doctor to HR space, right? But you're speaking to the heart. I think that's really what we're talking about there. And the fact that you continue to bring it back to people. Now, that's a different episode, but I've been in that retail space. If you can find the warm fuzzies there, because sometimes the people not so warm or fuzzy, right? Like they're right in that the core of, I just need to get the great deal. But I love that is where you are grounded, because here at the Cultivate Experience, you know it. We believe that relational leadership is grounded in that place of self-awareness. Who are you? Who's showing up? And being authentic in that space. Yeah. How have you seen that play out successfully in human resources, your sector, especially during the moments of tension, transformation, when it's unsettling? How do you see that?
So the past couple of years, I'm sure we can all say, have been quite different and brought lots of opportunities. That's how we phrase it. We phrase them as opportunities, not challenges, because they teach us something, fun or not. I always go back to the people. Again, it's about building strong teams, providing excellent, transparent communication, keeping them involved in the change plans that happen, including in things like none of us have ever been through a pandemic before. So we had town halls. It is extremely important to keep your people involved and get them engaged in the decision making, because we have to meet people where they are. You don't necessarily know what people are thinking, and if you think you do, you're completely wrong because it's very different.
You've lost at that point.
Exactly. So that's kind of what we've been doing. That's kind of what I've always done, is those relationships make pretty much anything that we all go through much better, because we hunker down, we hold each other tight, back each other up. If one's, slowing down because they just don't have the bandwidth, another one steps in to pick it up. And that's been from the smallest challenge of a project to the biggest challenges of trying to figure out how to deal with a pandemic, when you also have people who are out now sick with something that none of us have ever dealt with before.
And I love that, we know that time, you said it well, it was so much of the unknown, turned everything on its head. We needed each other in a way that we had never before. What I'm hearing from you, and we know this, we didn't leave all of that behind. Certainly we wanted the uncertainties, right? And like you said, people were ill and we didn't know, and there was loss. But what did we learn that we brought with us? And it's that space of, as a leader, I don't have all the answers. This is a we. We're going to do this together, right? And being open and vulnerable and authentic in that space to say that, bringing that support and the challenge that was coming along with it, and saying, hey, it's us. This is an us thing. And so I love that that's continued on, and that's what you're calling us to really look at is, what did we learn there and how is that transpiring in the work that you're doing today? So important. You said it. What did we learn? It's
So,
hard. What did we learn?
so many things. We came from places where remote work was not typically an option, because we just hadn't been there yet. And you got thrust into it, and being able to be successful in that and only have a week to pull it off is pretty impressive. So you see the resilience of the team, but you also see the magic that they can make when you have people who are just engaged and dedicated and loyal to just making everything work for everyone. It was a very great time that helped bring us into focusing on new things that we can do. I'll say post pandemic, and I know people have feelings about that, but like, post that time, like since we've come back physically
Yes.
into the office, how we can do things differently and have a different focus, including on employees and engagement.
I love it. And what I'm hearing from you is, where can we celebrate? Where are those celebration spaces? They are there. We know that there's the rigor and the deep work and the tough things, but not to be forgotten are those places where we can celebrate, and reminding those, especially those on front line, how much they are making an impact and making a difference. Which leads me to, you've been in some places where there's standout. There's awards being given. We're talking best places to work. What makes a culture truly feel like that best place beyond just the award? What do you attribute that to?
It's actually so very timely because last night we actually won first place for large companies. So that's our second one. Um,
Wow, congrats.
So it was very timely. Hasn't even been announced yet, but by the time that they see this, it'll be announced. So,
Yes.
um, it, honestly, we love the award, and that's wonderful because the employees have to be the ones who complete the
Mm,
survey to get you there. You don't have any control over what they say and how many people contribute. But I think that just is a testament to the people. You have to be there to support and engage, provide the tools, not just professionally, but also personally, because people are dealing with a lot of things in their personal worlds and
mm-hmm.
attributing to, and it's always something we've said. I mean, if some companies feel differently about it, we are like a little family, in the respect that we do want them to put their family first. We obviously need clients to be taken care of course, but when people feel that they have permission to be human and they have the ability to take care of what they need to, and providing that support, whether it be education, for a caregiver, one of our affinity groups, like those type of things really give the person the ability to do that. And then you just watch them flourish when they come back because they've had the time to either handle what they needed to
Mm.
reset, to recharge, to learn, whatever the case may be.
I love that. And again, like you said, very timely. You use the word flourish, which I
Mm.
think goes hand in hand with when we're thriving, right? We can be in that space where we're just surviving. We're just making it through. Oh my gosh, you made it to an end of the week and we're on fumes. But when you're in that flourishing space, and again, as leadership looking and speaking into your staff, your team, and saying, we see you, we see that you're the 360-degree person that shows up and you've got a lot of life that's happening outside of here. When that makes such a tremendous difference. And really, when we talk about here at the Cultivate Experience, relational leadership, that's how
Mhm.
you put it in action. That's that high support coming along those high challenges. I find it just heartwarming and I want to dig in. And this is where some look at this differently. Mental health and the importance of you're a mental health first aid certified, in person and professional. A powerful example of leading with empathy. I want to hear you share a moment that training actually helped you really put into action the support to someone in a meaningful way.
It's it's happened in 2024, but since then I've had many opportunities in many different areas, including personally, to put that into play where I had someone who was having a mental health crisis and I immediately dropped everything that I had and went and sat next to them in a private
Mm,
space so that we could kind of talk through things, be able to provide any type of support that they might need. And we sat on the phone, sat right next to them while they called 988 and went through everything that they needed to. And, they were able to get to the place where they needed to. Other times it's been just constant check ins with people. It might be every other day, it might be every other week, depending on what the person needs. And we just got feedback for that a couple weeks ago when someone successfully went through on a personal level one of the toughest times that they ever had in their
mm,
life. It's a very important certification for me because I just wanted to be able to not assume that I was doing the right thing. I wanted to make sure I had the right training and the right outlook to be able to provide the best support. While I can't diagnose or, write a prescription clearly, I can get them to the right people because sometimes nobody knows who to go to. And
yes.
just being that middle person in that perspective, being able to provide that has been important. And so far appreciated.
Yeah, well, and that's it. I mean, frankly, I haven't heard that from anyone. I know that it's out there, but as far as this certification, and you said it, to be able to serve best,
Yes.
how do we do that, right? And
Mm.
we know that there's real life happening, real life going on. People are in the thick of it. We are in the thick of it, and so when you can, your leadership speaking in and saying this is important and you're saying, yes, I want to be a part of that solution, I think that speaks volumes
Mm.
to when we talk about being seen and heard, because now you're doing that in an impactful and meaningful way. That is to me, the definition of having an empowered staff, right? You being empowered as a leader and team, how you're then empowering your staff and those on the front line. Your world is so full, like many of us, obviously, but it's not just behind that desk and representing the organization that you're with today. Director of community engagement for your local SHRM chapter, right?
Yeah.
You've connected leaders well beyond their organization and the
Mm.
work that they're doing. What role do you see community and that collaboration play in shaping a more relational overall workplace?
It's it's really great that you mentioned that because I was new to the role late February, early March. It tends to go back to the people, which is your community, whether it be at large of HR
Mm,
professionals and connecting them with the different, partnership vendors that we might be working with or, third party administrators or things like that. It ends up going back to them being able, again, I hate to keep saying it, but being able to serve people in a way that they need. And that's something that local chapter does very, very well, is tries to provide those resources, because again, not everyone has access to this
Mm,
resources and or has the bandwidth to go looking for said resources, and being able to connect, this company to this company, and it makes a huge impact positively to their organization, no matter how big it is, makes their day a little bit easier, or provides them the technology that they needed, or they didn't know how to have a tough discussion about mental health and they have someone who's dealing with that. Those type of things really just make that, building that strong relational relationship very, very important. So I've been very lucky to have those opportunities come up for me, so that I could be that, I'm a conduit for those organizations.
absolutely. And then we talk about collaboration and we talk about being a strong community partner. That's a very tangible way to do that, right? And
Yeah.
to go beyond the theory and
Mhm.
bring it into practice. When we talk about leaders and being there to mentor, we're going to jump into that space. Then you talk about how you can then really bring your team into a place where they're motivated, right? And seeing themselves as part of a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And you just then took it to that third space of then mobilizing our community, right? Those three M's. That's the space that I love to watch and be a part of and help to activate in, because you see the direct correlation in that space. And that's what I heard you speak out in that story. You mentor, you're facilitating different opportunities for
Mhm.
your peers and those in the community. We all have, these are our go-tos. What's one piece of advice that you often give when you're mentoring someone who, we said this, got to be seen and heard. They feel unseen. They're
Mhm.
feeling undervalued in their workspace. What's the advice that you start with?
It might not be the most popular, but it's come to my light more recently for my own
Mm,
challenges of not taking care of myself.
mm,
I give the advice of, and it has some tentacles to it, not over promising and under delivering. And what I mean by that is not just the typical like task oriented, but not overextending yourself, giving yourself the grace, giving yourself the time. We, especially in HR, tend to be people pleasers because all we do is serve and make sure everybody gets what they need. We have to make really important decisions, sometimes without any precedent behind them. We have to be there to be not certified psychologists at times, or counselors, friends, those type of things. And you don't necessarily have that in your repertoires. A lot of us are homegrown and we have not
mm-hmm,
gone through major large trainings on how to do this. So for me, I have found significantly, and I've shared this with others, they have to take their time. It's not just part of their compensation package. It's meant to rest and recharge. And when I see people taking their time, it makes me feel like they understand how important they are to us, and that they should take time to recharge. So it goes into a bunch of different
mm-hmm,
areas when I do that. And of course, we don't pay attention to titles and mentoring. And I'm like, that's just kind of, I just share, and hopefully it resonates for someone. If it doesn't, that's okay. So that's kind of what I approach it with, is I at times will overpromise and underdeliver because I didn't give myself enough time, which also, when you're feeling unseen and unheard, if you give yourself the actual proper amount of time and really set those boundaries, whether it's formal or just for yourself, it sometimes helps you get to that point where you are a little bit more seen, a little heard, because when you're consistently be able to deliver,
mm-hmm.
it's really hard to ignore that, at least in my experience.
So well said. So well said. Because you said it, and I hear you in HR, but the people pleasing thing,
Mhm.
we all struggle in some fashion or form with that, right? We don't want to disappoint,
Yeah,
and unfortunately, we can. It starts here. Not that it's all about us, but how healthy am I
right.
to be able to show up and to be able to meet needs, to be able to do the work, to be if I'm not taking care of me. this is a challenge. And I'll be real frank. I will not, rarely will I cancel or have to reschedule or move or just forget about a meeting between you and I.
Yeah.
But I will reschedule with myself all day long. Oh, that'll move. Right. And being intentional. And that's what I'm hearing you say,
Yes.
being intentional with yourself.
Mhm.
Now, I'm going to challenge and ask, and I think I heard this. Are your people seeing you do that? Hey, you should take your time. As leaders, we got to walk that out, right?
It's absolutely true, and it actually stemmed from, one of the people who I technically oversee. Again, we don't like titles over there because 'cause we're
Y-
just all a team. So it actually came from them, and they made a point to make sure that I understood that I wasn't taking care of myself.
Yes.
And so it is something that I have been displaying more recently, a lot more, and also making sure that I'm not just giving them the grace and the ability to take the time. I'm actually taking the time and displaying that. It's actually something that our wonderful leader has actually included in upcoming discussions for us all
Mhm.
to have at the end of the year about how are we intentionally setting time for ourselves, for self-care, for just resetting and recharging and displaying that as leaders for others, because when they see you do it, they're more likely to do that themselves and feel that comfort to do so. So yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what I want to celebrate and I don't want to gloss over is that you've created a space
Mm,
that there is felt safety that that person could have that conversation with you. I
absolutely.
get it. I get it not having the titles, right? And there's a structure that's there. So
Yeah.
if that person who thought that they could have that conversation with their boss in
Mhm.
quotes, right?
Always.
Hey, I that says, well, you're doing something really right, that there can be that comfortability to say, hey, I care
Mhm.
about you. Let me point this out. The balance between that high accountability and
Mhm.
high support,
Yeah.
so tough, right? Those are tough and courageous conversations that we have to have. And so
Mhm.
I I am so appreciative that one, you were vulnerable enough to bring that out and say, yep, I had to be called up in that space.
Mhm.
But then also let's celebrate the fact of you created a space where that could happen.
You have to. If your team cannot have the same constructive feedback for you that you have for them and that comfortable exchange of that, it's just it doesn't thrive and flourish in the way that it can. At least it hasn't in my perspective. Any of the relationships I've had that we've had that, which has been consistent. I can't say every single one because nobody's perfect, but
Yes.
in a significant amount of that, that has been very important to the team thriving. And just when we have to hunker down and support each other, it just makes it so much easier because everyone's communicating and there's never a worry of I'm upset that how dare you call me on the fact that I'm not taking care of myself. It was always like, you're right. You're right. Yes, I will look into other
Yes.
ways to take care of myself and actually then did it because otherwise she'll follow up to make sure I did. So,
Well, and that's a point of care.
yeah,
That's how you saw that, right? And you heard that,
absolutely.
and that was a place of care. What we're talking about here is in some cases some really innovative thinking. It's not that it's simple, not easy, right? You keep coming back to people. It's the people. It's the people. Yep, it is. It's about you as the person. It's about others that are the people. But these are not easy things.
Mm-mm.
And there's some different innovation that we have to walk in. And we've had opportunity, across your career, you've had different opportunities to step into some new initiatives, bring some new things to the table.
Mhm.
What's one bold idea that you tried that really moved the needle for your employee engagement and morale? I'm interested to see what that would look like.
That's my favorite thing because this was many years ago before remote and hybrid work was really
Mm,
talked about. We came up with the idea of we'd really like to consider doing a 4-day work week alternating because we also know we have to slowly step into those type of changes. So one week it would be we'd work our normal, well, not me, but team would work their normal 40 hours in 5 days. The following week, they would do 4 tens. and it would be half the team. So we would always have coverage on Friday.
Mm.
Obviously has to happen. Um, I can't tell you the amount of positive comments and um, just the overall culture feel after that happened. People were able to do more because they didn't have those breaks in there. They were just able to keep burning and churning through the work. And then they were able to actually do things that they needed to do, whether it be with their children's school or attending. Somebody took a pottery class on Fridays. So, I mean, the things that people were able to do post that, again, they, like you said, it sounds, simple, but it wasn't easy necessarily to accomplish. But we had the right leadership at the top who believed that that was something we should try. And it is very successful. It's something that was there until I left. I'm sure it obviously continued, but I can't tell you how appreciative the employees were. And then leadership saw all of that. It was a piece of cake. I wish we'd have come up with it sooner.
Well, and think about, yeah. So when you talk about a pottery class, where would I put that? And now I can, right? I can allow myself, because we say these things, allow yourself to dream, step into these spaces that fill your cup. And you go, great, where do I put that? And
Yeah.
so now you have an employer who says, I'm going to help you create that space. Now let's fast forward. Well, in our case, now we're going to look back. That organization who put that in place, and then we go to our time in 2020, 21, they had this now foundation set to say, we know how to take care of our folks, and we know the world's not going to stop if everyone isn't here all at the same time when we couldn't be. And so that there's an encouragement that what may sound like, is this going to work? Try it.
Yeah.
Having leadership that said, let's give it a try, because goodness, you have no idea what that is can really speak into for what's coming next that we can't see. I love that. What a great example. What advice do you give to those emerging leaders, which you are one of, but those that you're speaking into who say they value well-being, but they don't know how to actually operationalize it? Make that be a thing.
Mm.
What's your advice in that space?
It's going to go back to self in there.
Mm.
To be your authentic self. The moment you stop being that person and start shifting into trying to fit into what you think they want, or organizationally, what is a better fit, you lose automatically. If you're your authentic self and you keep, people see boundaries a little differently, but I say boundaries in the respect of holding yourself accountable to make sure that your boundaries aren't being overlapped with something else that you don't, find to be appropriate, that you're holding yourself accountable to self-care and making sure that you do that. Then typically they've been successful in being leaders. And I mean, we've shared
Mm.
people who don't have leadership titles or aren't upcoming with leadership, but it's important for them to understand, don't lose who you are. You're going to be valued for who you are every single time. Moreover, than when you're trying to remember, how did they really want me to be? Do I have to adjust? Not saying you don't adjust to how you speak to certain people and things like that, but where your core values, your core ethics, your core morals, your why you got into this business, depending on whatever field you're in, you hold on to that. It's really hard to not be successful when you feel like you're your authentic self and you're doing something that you're very passionate about, something that you feel fulfilled with. It's really hard to not be successful at that point. And that was shared from a lovely speaker that I got to see recently. And it was 100% correct.
I love that. I love that. And how impactful and empowering that is. And again, not something that you're just sharing with someone else, but that you are walking out yourself, right? They're getting to see that in action. Crazy to believe that our time is wrapping up. But I would be remiss if I didn't dig in, and I say wrapping up, and then I'm going to throw you this big one.
Sure.
What's one leadership lesson that actually you learned the hard way, but you say it changed how you show up for your team day in and day out today, that you say, it was tough, but I wouldn't change anything and I would have gone through it again.
At a previous company, I had to unfortunately go up against someone who was way above myself
Mm,
to protect another.
mm,
It was probably one of the hardest experiences I ever went through. I ended up getting very sick, and
mm,
it was tough all around, but I would never turn back time and not do it again, because the person I believe is the person who I was protecting at the time, I believe is still there, which is great, for them, and it was the right thing to do.
mm,
As leaders, whether you have the title or not, we've had to put ourselves in the position of putting our rear ends on the line, for lack of a better term,
mm.
um, to make sure that we are protecting and doing what's right, whether anybody's watching or not. And in that case, it worked out very, very well, but it was not easy to get to that point. And I had no experience and no training. But I did find that I did have the right support. And because my leader had my back, we were able to make that work into a place where it was successful. And I stayed for quite a while after that.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you being so really so vulnerable in that space because even as you're telling that story, I can almost see you going back in your mind and like
Oh, yeah.
having to feel those feels, right?
Yeah.
But what and so what I'm hearing is at the end of the day, that integrity piece, right? You at your core, you might not have had all the answers,
Nope.
you didn't have all the experience, but you
Not,
had to lean into your core and okay, what's right? What's
mm,
right to do? And that told you that okay, that can never be something you let go of
never.
and helping you show up time in and day out for your team today and any team that you may have in the future.
Absolutely.
So rich, so impactful. Again, nothing just stays here with what we talked about today. You continue to just rock my world in a good way, just because of the things that you make us you think about it. I say this: change vocabulary. That changes the way that we walk things out, right? We call it something different. Now it changes the way we think. It
Mhm.
changes the way that we act. And you've done so much of that for us today. Before we close out, I want the audience to have a little fun with you, Aubrey,
Oh, cool.
and just get a little more depth, right?
Fun.
So I want to hear live concert that what's the favorite one that you've attended, recent or in the past?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back to, like, the '90s,
Come on.
honestly. Debbie Gibson was one of my favorite concerts that I went to.
Nice.
Was awesome.
She brings a lot of energy. She did bring a lot of energy. There's no doubt about that. I love it. You just brought me back. You just brought me back. Okay, early morning strategy session or late night brainstorm. What's your jam?
Early morning strategy. I am my best early in the morning and hit the ground running.
Fantastic, fantastic. And then again, this is super important. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, see, typically I'd be very basic with the vanilla, but I've developed a really serious liking to pistachio. I know,
Ah,
trying different
leaning.
things,
Come on, come on. I love it. I love it. Well, we're in tis the season for
right?
the ice cream. So I love, love that we're getting all these different opportunities to maybe I should try that. Aubrey, you have stretched our leadership mindset, inspired us to really reach for more today from ourselves, for those that we're called to lead and to walk side by side. Thank you so much for sharing and just giving us what was a glimpse into your leadership relationship story and journey. Your insights that they are phenomenal, and the way that you're investing in the growth of others so impactful.
I'm just so thankful, Wendy, for your time and for you even consider me, especially with all of the amazing leaders that you've already spoken to, and just appreciate your time and the audience's time to listen to this fun conversation.
Fantastic. Well, I couldn't agree more. I look forward to more in the future. Cultivate collaborators, you know that today that's a wrap. But remember, it's never over because each of us brings our own special flavor to the mix of relational leadership. So until next time, let's keep stirring things up, making an impact, and being better together. Thanks, everyone. Before we sign off today, I want to send out huge appreciation to our listeners for tuning in. I hope you felt seen, heard, and inspired to level up your own leadership journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And if you're ready to level up your leadership, connect with me at cultivateforgood.com. That's cultivateforgood.com.